Hawks to the National Prosecuting Authority. What have you been told so far?
Well, what we know is that the Hawks and the NPA are working together on this case, and that 15 very experienced prosecutors with the NPA are working on their side of the VBS mutual bank matter. We've also heard from the Hawks that it's now consolidated into one case and that there had been around 6 dockets. Luvuyo Mfaku, national spokesperson for the NPA, joins me now. Michelle, Luvuyo, just on this consolidated case, are there people inside these offices right now working on VBS?
Erin, you must recall that the matter is handled by our SCU in Pretoria. They would not be in this office. This office deals with issues of administration. There is no prosecution whatsoever that would emanate from this office.
But my question is, are there people right now then, at this moment, hard at work on the VBS mutual bank matter?
As I indicated yesterday that we received the report on the 9th, it was assigned to a very senior prosecutor to study it. That prosecutor was working on the report yesterday, and he was actually going to brief the other prosecutors who are involved in the matter in terms of the methodology that they must use in guiding the Hawks investigators.
So that's yesterday. It's now today. Can you give the public your confidence that they are working on it as we speak?
They are working on it as we speak, but you must appreciate the fact that we cannot give the public blow-by-blow account of the investigation. We need to protect the integrity of the investigation. Suffice to say that we are taking the matter seriously. These allegations are very serious. We have deployed a highly experienced team to ensure that the Hawks investigators are guided and the matter is fast-tracked to ensure that there is some finality.
Thank you. Luvuyo, just for those of us who aren't au fait with all of the finer processes between the Hawks and the NPA, what are the different roles? What is it that the NPA team will do, and what is it that the Hawks team will do? How do they fit together?
The investigation of crime is the sole responsibility of the police. That is outlined in Section 205, subsection 3 of the Constitution. That we must get clear. The NPA's mandate is to institute and conduct criminal prosecutions on behalf of the state. However, in serious and complex commercial crimes, the Hawks, from the inception of their investigation, they would actually approach the NPA and request the NPA to assign a team of prosecutors to give guidance. They are not investigators. Remember, you cannot investigate and prosecute at the same time. That is why at some stage we had the Kambembe Commission, which compiled a report that says a prosecutor cannot investigate and prosecute. The investigation of crime is squarely falls within the realm of the police.
So you're providing a supporting role here, and we've heard from the Hawks that the main complainant is the Reserve Bank. Have I got that right?
The Reserve Bank commissioned the report, and our prosecutors actually have had engagement in conjunction with the team from the Hawks, with the officials from the Reserve Bank.
Have you had engagements with the actual team who worked on the report that you say you received on the 9th?
As I indicated yesterday, that a meeting is scheduled for next week where the team of investigators and the team of prosecutors would actually look at the report and the advice that they have received from the deputy head of SCU in Pretoria in terms of how they approach the report. And we indicated clearly that that report is very useful. We will not cast it aside. They will just look at how the evidence was acquired. Remember, if you get a bank statement, it has to be done in terms of Section 205 of the Criminal Procedure Act. The person who is a senior official from the bank must depose to a statement in terms of Section 236 of the Criminal Procedure Act, stipulating that, in fact, the entries in those statements are in line with their accounting systems. So that is how evidence gets admitted in court.
Sure. Now, from the actual report itself, there's clear indication of the methodology used. There's reference to the appendices with the financial statements, the forensic analysis of those statements, the witness statements which are transcribed in those appendices. Is that not sufficient for you? Are you not satisfied that you can work from that?
With all due respect, Advocate Terry Mutau indicated in no uncertain terms that the matter must be referred to investigative authorities for further investigation. Now, a criminal investigation is conducted by the Hawks where there must be a criminal docket. Hawks must obtain statements from possible witnesses. Remember, when you take those statements, they must be in line with the elements of the crime.
Yes.
The crime that the prosecutors would identify that these are the possible crimes that must be investigated. So when you compile your statement, you don't just write whatever the witness says. It has to be geared to reflect whether all those elements of that particular offence are actually present in that kind of a statement.
So we heard from the Hawks that there were dockets opened in connection with VBS Bank fraud back in the middle of the year, June or July, the Brigadier said. And you told me yesterday that the NPA team was brought on board, I think, about 2 weeks ago. So the NPA hasn't been involved since the middle of the year, correct?
We were approached 2 weeks back. The first meetings that we have had, they started only last week. That is our prosecutors and the Hawks investigators. And I alluded to the fact that the Hawks have done a lot, but we won't actually divulge to the public. We cannot be investigating through the media. Remember, we prosecute within the framework of human rights, and the investigation must be credible. Yeah. It is allegations at this stage. The fundamental tenet.
How can you say that, though? Have you read the report? It's astounding the degree of accuracy and detail they go into.
The fundamental tenet of our constitution is this notion of presumption of you are presumed innocent until proven guilty. We will never deviate from that tenet up until a person is arraigned and appeared in court and convicted. That is where we'll cease to talk about allegations. At this stage, it is allegations up until that process is satisfied.
Allegations about a bank that's now in curatorship and has been since March. Luvuyo, I just want to move on then to the issue of the asset forfeiture unit. Obviously, this is important. We know that in civil prosecutions or civil matters before the South Gauteng High Court, 5 executives from VBS Bank were pointed out, and there was an attempt by the curator, which was successful, to get a temporary sequestration order on the 31st of July. Do you know if those executives' assets have been seized?
In fact, I had a meeting with the provincial head of asset forfeiture who sits in our offices. They've already identified who the curator is. They're in the process of setting up a meeting with the curator. They are requesting those papers so that they're
on the VBS website, just by the way.
Remember, what we're doing has to be in line with rules of evidence. We cannot just take a matter from a website and then say and admit and produce it in court. We need to get it from a relevant authority, and that relevant authority, if it's a government department, must compile a statement in terms of Section 212 of the Criminal Procedure Act for that evidence to be admissible. You need to understand that there's due process, there are rules of evidence. We do not operate on the basis of the rules of the law of jungle.
Sure. There's no jungle law here, but the court did provide that order allowing for the temporary sequestration back on the 31st of July. What I'm asking is, did the asset forfeiture unit then go and seize those assets?
How do you seize assets? Erin, please, you must understand. How do you seize assets on the basis of sequestration order? The curator, our understanding is that the curator applied for preservation of those assets. That is why we are engaging with the curator to see which assets are under preservation, so that we do not actually reinvent the wheel as the asset forfeiture. Yes. The asset forfeiture already identified who the curator is. They're in the process of engaging with the curator to set up an appointment so that they can meet and unravel the issues.
Sure. So if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is there will now be meetings to try and ensure the seizure of those assets which have been preserved. Is that right?
To identify which assets are under preservation, so that when the asset forfeiture conducts their investigation, they know which assets to pursue.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to leave it there for now. I mean, this story, Michelle, is incredibly detailed, and you can hear there that the NPA's team is providing support to the Hawks in this matter. The Reserve Bank, we've learned, is the primary complainant now that those 6 dockets have been consolidated into one. And it doesn't sound like there's been asset seizure at this point, just preservation of assets, and that's based on that court order from back in the middle of the year. So anybody with cars, houses and the like that may be linked to VBS Bank fraud, probably still sitting with them.
Well, thanks very much for that, Erin Bates. We're not all lawyers, so thank you very much for clarifying some of those issues there. Our reporter speaking to the NPA's Venda King.